My name is David Levine, as you know. We are having candid music chats here, and today we have AJ DeBolt. I'm excited to talk to him because he plays a completely different instrument from me, at least right now. He's a guitarist, singer, songwriter. His genre is completely different from me. As you know, I am a classical pianist, fully amateur. He, however, is a guitarist. He is more in the Americana genre. He does blues. The stuff I've heard from him, it has a really nice twang, really deep, rich vocals. And so it's going to be great to chat with him. We're going to be pulling questions from a box. Before I have him introduce himself, he is here on Substack. He is also has all his music streaming on all of the normal apps. So please stream AJ Debolt. Check out his music. Everything's going to be linked below in the description. And you again can find him here on Substack. So please go subscribe to him, say hello. And without further ado, AJ, if somebody were stumbling into this and has never seen you before, and maybe you'd agree or disagree with how I described you and introduced you, how would you introduce yourself to a random person just curious about your music?
I would say that I usually tell people it's like folky blues.
Oh yeah,
That
I love
I
that.
would say those are the things that I feel the closest to, even though that's not always necessarily the most, uh, not always the necessarily the best descriptions, but probably the closest to what I would say it actually is.
Yeah, like if the music industry and really most industries, it almost requires us to kind of put ourselves in a box, you know? So um yeah, like I like your description of that, and there will be some music that I put down below if somebody is just curious but hasn't clicked through yet. Particularly there's one called Steal Away. There's a studio version that you put on YouTube, which I love the quality of your voice, especially against almost like a metallic sounding guitar, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah.
I am not educated in guitars, so like I don't know all of the proper ways to describe it, but um, it's a really interesting sound, and I think it works really well. It's compelling. One of the things we had chatted about, and I'm curious to get your opinion on, is like our musical upbringings. We've touched on it, is very different. I myself didn't really do schooling or lessons, and sort of just made my way through obsessively exploring music. Um,
Yeah.
but I would love to hear like a brief, or maybe not brief, journey of like what led you through. I know you started at about age 6, 7, it sounded like. I'd love for
Yeah.
you to take us through like your musical journey up till today, and then we'll get to some questions.
So so you never had any lessons? Sorry, I wanted to
I
ask
had
you
a
that before I
couple, but I
forget.
never did regular. The act of like,
Wow.
yeah, I had massive stage fright, and I also really did not love the music. That
Huh.
was being taught, so I
Yeah.
really just kind of soaked it up from listening, like self objectively criticizing and
Huh.
trying to build skill. And 30 years later, sharing.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, that it doesn't sound like that was your journey. Not to say
No,
it's
I
any lesser or different, but I'm curious to know what yours was.
well, like I told you before, I started out when I was about 7 years old playing piano and classical Suzuki piano.
Okay, yeah,
My parents are both music teachers, so it was imperative that we all play an instrument in the
sure.
in the family. So
Did you
did
love it?
that. I mean I liked it. I think the thing for me was it was just very, having to practice. My mom was like, "Well, you practice like I can't remember, it was like 45 minutes a day," which when you're a little kid, that's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a
Even
lot.
30 minutes is a lot. And I mean, the
Yeah.
stuff that I was doing, you could get it. down after, but that was a big sticking point, obviously, because, you're a kid and you just,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
but I started out with that. And then in fourth grade, I picked up the trumpet. I wanted to be a drummer. I think every kid wants to either be a drummer or a saxophone player. And I worked in a music store that rented instruments, and every kid was like, "Yeah, I wanted to play drums," or "I wanted to play saxophone, but
Yeah.
I'm playing trombone instead." So,
Sure.
um, man, I was like the drummer kid, and my dad had been a drummer, and he had a drum set, like a nice drum set, and I thought, "Well, hey, you've already got the drums. I could practice on those." He was like, "Ah, I bought a trumpet off this teacher at school for $50. You're gonna play trumpet." So,
Really?
yeah. So, but I took
Wow.
I took
Okay.
that all the way to college. I even auditioned on trumpet as well. So when I got into college, I started out as a communications major because I thought, well, music's great and all, but I don't want to be a teacher. And I didn't know that like performance was a thing.
Sure.
And I didn't play classical guitar at the
Mhm.
time. So I didn't know I didn't really, and I didn't want to be a trumpet major. So um but I ended up deciding to leave the communications thing because it was just like I was like music, I got to do it. It was
Yeah,
it
it's
was one of those.
intrinsic to you.
Yeah, it was one of those Godfather moments where it's like, I thought I was out, but they pulled me right back in.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, I ended up this guy that ended up becoming my first guitar teacher heard me playing some stuff on a nylon string guitar in a music store he worked in, and he was like, "Have you ever thought about classical, guitar?" And so I was like, "Sure, let's do it." So I ended up taking, like, a crash course in classical guitar for probably
Wow.
I would say probably like 7, 8 months maybe,
Okay,
10
okay.
months, and I auditioned for the School of Music, both on trumpet and guitar, and I thought I would be I would definitely get in on trumpet,
Yeah.
and guitar would be kinda iffy, but it wound up being I wound up getting in on guitar and not trumpet, which
Really
suited me
fascinating.
fine because I didn't really like I said, I didn't really wanna be a trumpet major in the first place,
Yeah, yeah.
so,
Wow.
uh, did that, got my degree,
Uh-huh.
and, went out after that and, was doing a lot of jazz playing and, playing in rock bands and stuff like that.
Okay.
So,
Well, and so you have a blues sound now, at least from the stuff I've heard, for most of it.
yeah.
So, do you gravitate towards that more, I don't know, dark is the right way to say, but, do you gravitate more towards that minor, suadade kind of, like, introspective stuff? Is that why you would gravitate towards creating that music?
Yeah, it's so I was in when I was doing the Nashville songwriter thing, a lot of the stuff that you write for that is very upbeat, it's pretty positive. I mean, there is some introspective stuff, obviously, but it's a lot different from the stuff I'm doing now.
Sure.
And so I think I got to a point where I was just really bored with what I'd been doing and felt like I needed something different. And the songwriting that I was doing it the same way a lot, which is, it's great when you're learning to write.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I felt like, all right, I've done this. I can do this. I've gotten pub deals. I've had songs, played for major artists and put on hold with major artists, and
Mhm, mhm.
I can do this. Like I know that I can do it.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I felt like I needed something different. And I just started doing what I'm doing, and it's taken a while. It's been very, trying to find my process and just
Mm,
trying to figure out like what works and what doesn't work. And the blues thing is something that I think just everybody. I mean, when you play jazz, by virtue of the fact that you're a jazz player, you're also kind of de facto playing blues.
sure,
But
yeah,
as a
sure,
guitar player too, like everything that like most of the stuff that people think of when they think guitar is influenced or blues, you
sure,
know?
sure.
So,
Yep, yep.
but I kind of came back around to I was never as into like the electric blues, outside of like Hendrix, a few others. I mean, I like it. It's great stuff.
Yeah.
but I've been more attracted to the older, darker stuff. Like Robert Johnson's Son House, Johnny Shines, that kind of stuff. And it's just very, because a lot of that stuff it's incredible, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably why as well that, we linked up here and have been kind of admiring each other's work only for probably about a month now, but I think
Hmm.
that's probably why when I heard your music, it stuck out to me because I gravitate towards that, I would say, like, darker, brooding type of music. I
Yeah,
don't know, it's just, my soul gravitates towards it, right? So, I
yeah.
love that vibe. You won't hear me playing waltzes very often, you know? I'll be playing the elegies, those types of pieces, so,
Actually, I
yeah.
have a waltz for you. I have
Do
a waltz
you?
for you. I'm gonna link you to it when we're done. But it's a
Great.
waltz that I think you'll like.
Yeah.
It's one I played in college. It's a great.
What
It's a
what composer?
It's by a guy named Nikita Koshkin, and it's called the
Oh,
Usher Waltz. And it's
okay.
basically like a programmatic telling of the story of the fall of the House of Usher in a piece of music. And it's an
Then
unbelievable piece.
send it my way after because, yeah,
I
I love
absolutely will.
I love when these random pieces too, I mean, of course, like, I think another major difference between us is that I don't really create music. I just interpret and
Mhm.
play. Um, and so I think it's a different muscle, obviously. Like, I think a lot of non-musicians don't really, and no shade to non-musicians, but they often don't understand that it's actually a completely different, almost language, muscle, skill. Often someone will say, "Hey, can you play this to me?" They'll ask. And I'll
Yeah.
be like, well, if I read music and interpret. So if you have the sheet music, hell yeah, I'll play it for you right now, but I don't play by ear. I don't have the music theory, and I also don't write. And so that's another thing I really appreciate from you, other musicians who have a distinct sound style that they gravitate towards, and then create music for that style. That's not something a skill I have. That just being objective, that's not something I do or have. And so most non-musicians don't understand that. So it's like you kind of have to give them a little crash course themselves of music and the creation of music. So yeah,
Yeah.
how do you feel about pulling some random questions?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, and if you don't have an answer, no problem. We'll skip it. If it's classical related and you don't want to talk classical,
Oh no, I'll
just
talk classical all day.
well, then let's talk classical, but you can do it from any genre perspective.
Okay.
Okay, this is good. And some of these are more music industry today, as
Mhm.
modern musicians creating. And that's what this one is. So, defining
Okay.
success. How do you define success as an independent musician? Uh, I won't include the rest of that question because it's too specific. So, how do you define success today in your own music today?
Being able to make a living.
That's a pretty
I
high bar.
I think that's I I think given how things have gotten with
Hmm.
the music industry, like if you're making a living at it, to me that's a huge thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's always precarious, it's always, you know, but like if you can make a living and keep making a living, like that's to me that's success.
I mean, objectively, that is success for sure. My bar is way lower. My bar is like so below that. It is just, um, I think my metric is just the willingness to share music
Mhm.
and hopefully the rest happens, but it likely won't. So that's why I like that bar super, super freaking low. But also it's easy for me to say because I'm not a full-time musician. So for me, like success is just doing the thing as honestly as possible and sharing it without any need for the commercial side of it. If I were doing this professionally, I would fully agree with a higher bar, you know? And I don't
I
know
think,
how that works today for professionals. I really don't.
it's just having, in my experience, it's having multiple streams of income. Like,
Sure,
that's really,
sure.
to me, that's really the big secret to making a living in a creative
Yeah.
field, is that you just have to have multiple streams of income. Because, if you're lucky enough to be able to make a living off of just one stream, which is not many people,
No.
um, the quickest way to be able to start making a living, I think, is just having multiple things that you're doing. And that's always been my experience, is just, you
What
know,
what what would you say, like, top 3 for you personally, in your journey? Like, what are your top 3 streams of income for music specifically?
well, production work, songwriting work, that's been a
Yeah.
pretty big one.
Mhm.
Um, Sync licensing is really a way that a lot of songwriters, especially, have been able to make to make money.
Yeah.
Um, it got more competitive after COVID, for sure,
Sure.
because a lot of people, like, I was doing it before COVID, and there was, um, there were a lot less. Some of the companies that I was working with didn't seem to have as much. They weren't spoiled by choice
Mm,
the way they were after COVID, and everybody kind of went home and decided that sync licensing was going to be their new thing.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then playing live.
Yeah.
So those things
Well,
are
yeah,
pretty
and I
much the
guess
big three for me.
sure, and playing live kind of extends into merch, uh, actual album sales,
I
eh,
can, yeah.
yeah, so it's almost just like, that alone itself is a huge economy. I love that. Thanks for the crash course. If I
Hey,
ever choose to quit my day job and go
what is
full
your day
time,
job? If you
huh?
don't mind me asking. What is your day job, if you don't mind me
I'm a
asking?
corporate accountant.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. You'd never think that, the creative side is there for us boring accountants, but
You
yeah,
know?
it's just work to pay the bills, and, it allows me this creative freedom to, um, produce albums myself and
Yeah,
release them in my own way without that pressure
yeah,
of, like, because classical is, I mean, as you know, all these genres have their own little niche audiences,
yeah,
and with the algorithm serving music to people, and how all these apps are split up and divvied up, it's really
yeah,
strange to see discovery for classical musicians a part of the whole mess of discovery itself with AI
yeah,
and these streaming apps. But then secondary to that is, like, I've never heard of an independent classical pianist before. I mean, maybe I'm just not looking, but I don't see him anywhere. And so I'm just trying to get through
yeah.
learning how to do all this myself, basically. Um, and having that job is really helpful. I'll tell you that much.
Accounting is very creative. I
You
used to
think
sit
so?
in I used to sit in, on, like, I would go in with my accountant and sit in
Mhm.
on the sessions, and it was
Yeah.
a lot more creative than I gave it credit for. Because,
I
like,
like to think of it as Tetris and
it absolutely is. Absolutely.
categorization and math, which are huge, pattern recognition is music making.
Yeah,
Pattern
yeah,
recognition is so
yep,
pivotal, and you can't really quantify that skill of, patterns, like,
yeah,
or being able to intrinsically hold the beat. Right? Like, that is not something I mean, yeah, you can quantify that, but do you know what I mean? It's you either have it or you have to work decades to figure it out. And even the people with intrinsic talent, there is so much practice and skill building required.
yeah.
Um, okay, let me pull another question. Let's
Okay.
pull another. I love this thing. I printed, maybe 200 questions. before I started doing these live sessions, and I love it. I love it. Okay, this is a good one. I also love vetting these prior to reading them live. Okay, the art of simplicity. Describe a piece or a song that you play that sounds very simple, but carries the deepest emotional weight for you, and why?
Um, Steal Away is probably a pretty good one, uh,
Okay.
because I think there's I've always had this I think I'm a contrarian in a sense because I've always had this sense of like no matter where I am, I feel like I need to get away or I need to get out, and
Mhm.
Steal Away is kind of about that, just being in a circumstance or in a place or in just, wanting to break out of wherever
Okay.
it is. And it's a for the most part, I would say it's probably one of my simpler songs. I mean, there are a few chords in there that are a little, that bend your ear a little bit, but it's
Oftentimes, I think that's
yeah,
kinda what turns the song from simple to complex, is actually the simple presentation with the chord progression or whatever melody development that you're like, "Oh, wait, my brain actually wasn't expecting that. So this is
yeah.
something different than what I thought it was going to be." You do you know what I mean?
And I like that because there are
Yeah.
there are some there are a lot of songwriters that I can almost kind of tell what they're going to do next.
Sure.
And if they throw something in there that I wasn't expecting, I'm like, "Whoa, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. I see you."
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. I
I
I
love
love
that.
that. I appreciate that too when, I mean, obviously, classical piano, like, I think the perception of classical music itself is very just Bach, Mozart, Bach, uh, easily split up, rhythmic rhythmically, melodically, like, you know where it's going and all the things, but the truth is there's so much hidden surprises at most turns, especially with romantic era, which is what I
Oh, yeah.
focus on.
Yep.
Um, that yeah, I love that. And by the way, Steal Away is gonna be what I post down below, everybody. So
Right.
like if you're listening to this rewatch, check out the YouTube link and embed below and you can listen to it. I think for my answer for this would be I hate to plug something, but I'm gonna have to. It's actually the first track of my next album. It is Chopin's one of his preludes, and it's
Yeah.
so, simple. It is so simple, but the actual playing of it is, you really try to give a story, right? I mean, obviously with piano, it's not verbal. So you have to really do storytelling through your dynamics, and I purposely slowed it down, which was bold. I must say it was bold because I cut it in half. So it goes from 2 minutes to 4 minutes, um, which is excessive, I know, but it's so emotionally, deep that I think the slowness forces the listener to be like, "Wait, I wasn't expecting to actually be slowed down." Right? I thought it was boring, but now I'm into it. So that's my hope. That's my hope. Um, so that's what I think. I actually think in the simple, you can bring complexity with your presentation.
Yep,
So
I agree with that very much.
okay, I don't like that question. I've actually seen that question before. So let me pick a different one. Let me pick a different. Okay, I don't know if I love this one. We'll see where it goes. Okay, the musical sidekick. If you could have any fictional or non-fictional character or person as your practice partner or musical sidekick, who would it be?
It would probably be a drummer of some kind.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I like
Um,
that. Yeah,
I'm not
to do your
sure.
backtrack for you.
No, just somebody to play off of. Like I play pretty rhythmically,
Yeah.
because I think in part because I'm a frustrated drummer. And
Mhm.
because I got so used to playing by myself that playing rhythmically was sort of a way of having a bit of percussion
Sure,
in a sense.
sure.
Uh, so having a drummer that you could play off of, I don't know, maybe Tony Williams or Mitch Mitchell,
Mm.
maybe even
I
Dave Grohl. I think Dave Grohl is like one of the greatest. He's like up there with John Bonham for me as far as like great rock drummers.
I love the idea of having a in-home, pro drummer to
Hmm.
just to just, be your basically be your metronome and inspiration kickoff while you do the
Yeah.
opposite for them. I like that idea.
So what about you?
Um, God, mine wouldn't be a person playing. Mine would probably be someone who could really give me great feedback,
Hmm.
on how to voice something differently, to pull something out. You know, piano, like you were saying, it's such a solitary art, music, oftentimes it's so solitary,
Yeah.
and for the piano, it's always solitary, which I love, don't get me wrong, but the only way I've been able to, like, I feel like improve is to record and be really objective about watching myself,
Yeah.
and not having an inflated view of, what it is,
Yeah.
how it came out, but then also the flip side of it, which is don't be so mean to yourself, 'cause it's
Yeah.
still good, like, there's still inherent value in whatever it is you're working on, whatever it is you're sharing, um, so mine would be, I don't freaking know, like, Mark Andre Hamlin, my favorite pianist, maybe, but I wouldn't want him to, like, teach me, I would just want him to be like, "Hey, maybe voice it like this,"
Yeah.
"That was great, but" that's what I would want.
I think that's an interesting thing that you said about piano, especially being very solitary, is that
Mhm.
classical guitar is too, but there are a
It
lot of like
is.
guitar duos, guitar quartet things. I actually did a lot of like guitar and voice, guitar and flute, guitar and violin stuff,
Oh,
which was
wow.
pretty cool. But
Yeah.
I realize that there probably isn't as much of that kind of thing for piano unless you're just accompanying someone or if you're doing like a four hands kind of thing.
Yeah, which is a
Yeah.
skill in and of its, as you know, like,
Yeah.
accompanying is like, I mean, you've
Oh yeah.
gotta be on top of it, you've gotta be
Yeah.
present, and you've gotta be
Can't get in the
confident.
way.
What was it?
Can't get in the way.
No, you can't. No, and that is a you have to be able to work under pressure and think creatively while not being the lead,
Yeah.
which requires you to be very okay with being in the background, which is
Yeah.
still such an essential role of
Yeah.
any music. It is so essential. So I don't mean it
Yeah.
like metaphorically, but literally in the background of the track.
So you have to
Um,
check your ego, you know?
Definitely. Which by the way, like, modern day music sharing, especially for me, uh, like, I've had to get as much ego as I can out of sharing, and what I realized in doing that in the past, like, 5 years was, like, a lot of the self-criticism is really just a flip side of the ego. Like, nobody hears the mistake, right? Like,
That's true. That's very true.
don't beat yourself up, or they heard it and they don't care because they really appreciate the full story, right? Um,
There are a lot of
yeah,
times when I'll be recording something and I'll blow a chord or I'll sing something weird, and I'll be
yeah,
like, "Oh, man, I'm gonna have to go back and fix that," and then I go back and listen to it, I'm like, "Oh, it's, like, barely there." Like, in the
yeah.
moment, it sounded huge, but, like, listening back to it, it's like, "Oh, okay, I'll just leave it,"
Well,
you
yeah,
know?
some of those moments are "mistakes," quote, unquote, or some of them are, like, in the moment, it's like you're inspired, so you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna try it this way,"
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
then, um That's so valuable, and that is not something, by the way, we won't go heavy into the AI talk, but that's not something AI can do. So, like, AI as a tool is wonderful, I think, in preparation and planning and just, like, sketching maybe. But otherwise, like, the value of having a human come in and make a mistake unintended that made it better, or an inspired live moment that, like, "Oh, damn, I love how that came out. I'm gonna have to start doing that in the future."
Yeah.
That's not something these programs can do. Um
I was talking with somebody in the comment section
Mhm.
of a piece the other day, and I was telling them how I think there are certain writers on Substack that I think actually keep typos in their pieces on purpose, or
Totally.
keep like weird grammar in on purpose as sort of like a watermark, as if to say, "Hey, this isn't AI. This is
Yeah.
me." You know,
Well, and
and
I appreciate it,
I
frankly.
kind of wonder if musicians are going to start doing that. Like
Yeah.
recordings now are very uh, like they're very unrealistic, I guess, in a
Yep.
way, because
Yep.
they're like you there's so much processing and so much nipping and tucking that goes into a lot of recordings that
Optimization and yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of wondering if and I don't know if anybody else has had this experience, but sometimes somebody will send you something and you're like, is this AI or are these like real people playing this? And
Yeah.
I think in the future a lot of that nipping and tucking and beautifying will probably,
Yep.
you know,
I
step back
totally
a bit
agree. Yeah.
just so people can say, "Hey, this is really people doing this. This isn't a computer."
Yeah,
It's
you want it to
weird.
be, you almost want to have an aggressive human sound so that,
Mhm.
let's say I send you something, AJ, like, I don't want you to question if
Yeah,
I threw it through a MIDI processor, like, and this is why there's so many mistakes in my recordings, because I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Act like I performed it perfectly? Because I didn't. Like, realistically, this is frankly a live recording. It's not
yeah,
a studio recording, it's a live recording. Um, that just happens to be on a CD, which I think people love live experience, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, I like that take, and yeah, I like the idea of including a mistake to prove that this is human and it's still worthy
yeah.
of
I like
listening
that.
to. Yeah. Okay.
I like that.
Staying inspired. How do you keep your own creative energy and inspiration high when the digital world feels overwhelming or draining sometimes? So, how do you
Um,
prevent burnout, AJ? Give us a lesson.
you know, it's funny because a lot of I'll get ideas from reading things, like reading pieces, or I'll get an idea from, like a situation or something that I hear about.
Mhm.
I've got a bunch of things that I've started. Like I've got my notes app, and I'll have a bunch of like lines, a bunch of things, and I can always come back to that. And if I'm inspired in the moment, I'll sit down and actually like write it out. But if it's just like a couple lines,
Mhm.
um, I'm an experienced enough songwriter that I can kind of come back and sort of retrace my steps a bit.
Yeah, bounce around with the breadcrumbs you left, kind of.
Yeah, but I think
Yeah.
it's like inspiration is a really fickle thing,
Mhm.
and I don't think you can trust it always.
Sure.
That
Sure.
like if you just rely on like, well, I'm inspired, so I'm gonna write, or well, I'm not inspired, so I'm not gonna. It's like that's you're kind of leaving things up to chance, and I don't really like doing that.
Yeah. Yep.
But I'm grateful for the inspiration when I do get it. But I think you just kind of have to do what you're doing, and sometimes you can find inspiration. While you're even if you don't start out being inspired when you're doing
Yep.
it, you can kind of dig in a bit and find it. So.
Yeah, I like
That's what works
that.
for me, but, you know,
Mhm. I
it
agree completely, and just to, like, push it farther, like, it's kind of like you need to keep momentum going whether you're
yeah,
inspired or not.
yeah,
That's what I'm
absolutely.
hearing from what you're saying. So, keep the momentum going.
Yeah,
So, keep putting notes out, write down, do the work that whether it came to you in an inspiration or you're pushing and pulling for it, whichever
yeah,
direction, still, do the work. And then when inspired, use it as fuel to really push further
yeah,
whatever those things are that are inspiring you. So I do the same thing. I do the
yeah,
same thing. So it's like I like to 'cause I don't create, I just interpret, so it's a little bit almost easier for me, because I'm not having to develop a story, a style, all those things, you know? So for me, it's more just, what's the piece that you are deeply obsessed with and inspired by at this moment, and breaking it into chunks that are easy to work on, um whether I'm inspired or not, like, you have to work on it, you know? I mean,
yeah,
I'm working on Chopin Berceuse right now. I'm
yeah.
obsessed, and it's fucking beautiful, but there are parts of it that are so frustrating, right?
Yeah,
And, like, I am inspired, but that isn't to say there's not a lot of work from inside. I have to just do it,
yeah,
and eventually it'll get to a level that's inspiring,
yeah.
maybe.
Have
I
you
hope.
ever gone and, like, looked back at like, looked up some of the pieces and seen if there was something that the composer was particularly inspired by, or there was something that they were trying to say through that piece?
Sometimes I do, yeah, like, I know with the Berceuse, it was more of a lullaby.
Yeah,
Often, I don't actually look into it until after I've made up my mind to, like, what the story is I'm saying. Because for
sure.
me, like, that Berceuse, it's hard to be talking about this piece and not, playing it, but,
Yeah,
if you heard it, I think you would agree that it could either be a lullaby or, like, a love song between adult,
yeah,
2 lovers going different and then parallel paths constantly.
I
So
like
that's
that.
how I perceive it, but
Yeah,
it is technically a lullaby for kids.
yeah,
But what
I like
is music? What is music but, uh excuse me, what is the story behind music besides what the listener is feeling? You know,
yeah,
so so my version of your music, I'm not a lyrics person, right? So, like, when I hear your music, I don't really pay attention to lyrics of anybody, but I'm like, I love the style. I love
yeah,
the guitar with the rich voice, right? I'm not really thinking logically about the meaning of the story you've provided, you know?
yeah. I started I think either because I started out as an instrumentalist or because, like, a lot the I came up listening to a lot of Nirvana, and
Yeah.
with Nirvana, like, you couldn't always understand what he was saying, so,
Yeah.
there are a lot of songs that I've heard hundreds of times, and I still don't know what the lyrics are,
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
kinda
It's
like
weird to think about that, and I've really tried to key in more on the words, especially when I can understand them, but I think I got into the habit of just listening to the music first because I
sure.
started out as a piano player, as a guitar player, and then
Yeah.
because Kurt Cobain mumbled,
Yeah,
so
yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, what comes to mind is, like, Dave Matthews Band.
yeah,
And there's so many others that I'm just like, by the way, like, we listen to music in other languages
yeah,
without speaking the
yeah,
language, and so,
yeah,
all to say, like, you really it's in the eye of the beholder or the ear of the listener, and I don't know how you say that for listening, but, who cares if you understand it, right? If it's speaking to you emotionally, that's the story. That's the story. That's all that matters, really. If you wanna go
yeah.
deeper and specific, you can, but I won't be most of the time, to be honest. Okay, shall we do one final question?
Let's go.
All right. Let me pull from like way deep in here. I need to vet it first.
Okay, make it a good one.
Okay, this might not be a good one for you. So I'm going to do it and then we can do another one okay.
Okay.
Because this is more for written music. When selecting repertoire, how do you decide if a piece is a good fit for the emotional or spiritual mission you want to convey? I don't know
Uh,
if you want to take that or not.
no, I'll take it. Because
Okay,
I
great.
mean, like I guess in a sense, my music is written down in that I write down the lyrics,
Sure. Yep.
but I think there are songs that I've written that I think are good songs, but they're not necessarily songs I can stand behind. And so that's like a big one for me. And that's also kind of how I've learned, like, if I write something, like, that's how I've learned that certain lines are not the right lines because they're not lines I can stand behind
And
for whatever
say more. What do you mean by stand behind? Do you mean like you're not proud of them to have your name attached, or like what do you mean by stand behind?
they're not lines that I can deliver and
Oh, okay.
just feel like, yes, this is it. This is the line. I
Sure.
believe this 100%. This is exactly what this should be.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that like in your, I think everybody knows in their heart of hearts when something isn't there, like it's not quite right, or it's not as good as it could be,
Yeah.
and it's just a matter of whether you're willing to go back and try to dig deeper and make it better or not. And
Yeah.
that's that was something I learned when I was doing a lot of songwriting, is like sometimes you've got songs where it's like, this could be something, but we're just kind of shitting it out, and it just is what it is.
Yeah, it's
Or
almost like you're spiraling around,
yeah,
but you're not there yet.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and it's sometimes you have something that just isn't ever going to be something because it
Yeah.
the 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 seed that it comes from just isn't that great, you know?
Well,
But
yeah, and sometimes the idea isn't meant to be a song,
yeah, I
right?
mean,
I mean,
so
it's like maybe that inspired idea was meant to be a one-line poem, you
that's,
know?
that I was gonna say that there are some lines I've written down that I thought were the genesis of a song, and then it's like,
Yeah.
these aren't a song in themselves. These are like part of another song. Like, these
Yeah.
can't stand on their own, you know?
Yeah, I get it. I mean, it's a little different because I don't write lyrics and stuff, but I can understand what you mean, and you know what it makes me think of is, like, there's a lot of memes online where it's like and we've all gone through this stage in our life of, like, angsty teenager with, like,
I'm
we
still
think we're
there.
so creative and we're so smart, and so we write down this just, like, mortifyingly embarrassing we think it's a revolutionary idea, and it's actually like a really basic human thing. Like,
Yeah.
20 years later, we would look back on that same whatever was
Oh,
written down. Yeah,
I still do that. I mean, I'll have, like, if there'd be nights I've had enough whiskeys, I'll be like, "Oh, this is a great idea. I'm gonna write this down," and then I look back the
exactly.
next day, I'm like, what is
Yeah,
this?
yeah,
Delete."
yeah, yeah. And I think
But
like when I bring that into the classical world, I think of Tchaikovsky hated his own a lot of his own work, specifically the Nutcracker, and
'Cause it was so popular.
it was so popular, and it makes me think of, like, is that the cringe he felt when he perceived his music, which was, widely renowned? Is that his feeling? Or I mean, because us objectively, it's good music,
It's a great
and it's
I
it's
you
a
know,
great series.
I think my hypothesis about that, because I remember my son is really into Fantasia, and there's that, if you've ever
Yeah,
seen it, there's that
yeah,
part in the, I can't remember, Deems Taylor, he's like, it's funny how wrong an artist can be about his own work. Tchaikovsky detested the Nutcracker." And I think it was probably not that he hated the piece, he just was probably tired of people going on about how great it was. He's like, "I've written other stuff too.
Right,
This
you're
isn't the
probably
only
right.
thing." And so I think that's my theory,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
you know,
No,
it was just
actually,
uh,
I love that take because that's true of any of us. It's kinda like when somebody asks me to play Für Elise.
uh-huh.
Like, I can play it, I guess.
It's a
Do I
beautiful
want
piece,
to?
but you're
It's
probably tired
beautiful,
of it.
but, like, I could play you 40 other amazing pieces that you've never heard of, and you're gonna freaking love it.
Yeah,
Um, that is probably how he felt.
and I mean, like, I don't have any, like, massive, big I've got some songs that my circle of people like, and
Yeah,
that I'm tired of. It's like when they ask me to play them, I'm like, "Ugh, alright,
sure.
fine." But,
Yeah,
it people like what they like, and if you've made something that people like, I think that's a beautiful thing, but
yeah.
there is
It's a
definitely, especially if you've moved on from that, and,
yeah.
I mean, like, I can't even imagine being stuck to things that I did in my 20s and still
No,
having
I
to
can't
play some of
either.
those songs and still,
I can't
so
either.
I kinda get I
It
get it.
makes me think too, I mean, I guess my final takeaway for this question is, like, I don't know, I don't remember where I heard this saying, but, the saying is something like, if, if you ask me what's my favorite piece, it's the piece I'm working on right now. So it's always shifting,
The newest one.
because yeah, it's the new one. It's the one right now. It's the Chopin verses. It's my favorite piece in my whole life, and then in a month, it's gonna be something completely different, right?
That's
S
that's how it is with songwriters, 'cause
Yeah,
the newest thing that we do is always our favorite,
yeah,
and
because
then you're like, "Ah."
there's a reason you're inspired in the moment to be
Yeah,
working on that thing you're working on, and it needs to be that amplified, excited, inspired place for
mhm,
you to even bring it to the world, if you're going to share it with the world, but
yeah,
to share it honestly in the most heightened way you can. Like, if you're not obsessed, then why are you even bringing it to the world? What how are you even gonna develop it the way it needs to? How are you gonna get that technique how you need it to be to come across for the song, So,
yeah.
any
Well, how about you did like, if you at the risk of making this
uh,
longer than you want it to be, like, how do
yeah.
you decide whether a piece is something you wanna commit to learning and or not?
Yeah, so first off, I need to make sure that the piece is something that I can't get out of my brain. One,
Yeah,
just hearing it. So, this berceuse came up because I watched a film that had it in it, and I was like, "Oh, damn, I've never worked on that, and that's really something." That is like, "Ooh, that is really something." But I was working on something else at the time. So, I was like, "Okay, well, I can't invest time in developing these techniques because, um, with classical music, there is so many microscopic puzzles that
yep.
you build in. There's 400 puzzles in this song. Now play them all back to back seamlessly, and don't make it sound like you're trying, you know?
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah,
earworminess, I love that. So, um, with the berceuse, there's about, I would say, 6 technically demanding sections-ish in there
mhm,
that it's like, okay, my next step that I'm obsessed with it is, can I even develop that skill, that technique to play those parts?
mhm,
That takes weeks
yeah,
sometimes. And then lastly, it's like, okay, now that you've figured out those parts, can you put them together? And is your story seamless? Is it how you want it to be, or are you just trying to get through the work? You
hmm,
know? And, anything I've published, it's because I'm like, "Okay, I'm proud of the momentum of the piece, whether there
yeah,
was a mistake, whether the technique's not there, if the story's there, if I'm proud of it, I'm gonna share it," because I don't wanna lose my love of the music,
Yeah.
and risk forcing the perfectionist mindset, which I think is really unhealthy. Like, just ship. Just work on it, ship when it's the best you can. When you're at
Yeah.
95%, don't worry about the 5%. People love that imperfection, actually. They really do.
Yeah.
And the haters are gonna hate either way. They're gonna hate either way. And by the way, in the classical world, I don't know if this is true in blues, folk, guitar, vocals in your world, but the criticalness of the classical world is just brutal,
Yeah.
and it demands perfection. It demands excellence that is above what a non-professional can achieve. And it's like I don't really treat anyone that way, so
Right.
I can't treat myself with that same, like, perfectionist barrier, you know?
Mhm.
Um, that's my spiel.
Well, I like it. I think it's very. I think it's apt.
Thank you. Well, this has been lovely, AJ. Thanks so
Yeah,
much
this has been
for
great. Thanks
thanks
for
for
having me.
absolutely. Thank you for joining us today. Again, everybody, this is AJ Debolt. Please find him on Substack, on all of the streaming apps. Down below in the description is going to be easy to click links. And it's been a pleasure to talk music with somebody in the field who is in a completely different world from me, but we still are speaking the same general language. So I think it's really exciting to have these conversations. I hope you all enjoyed. AJ,
Yeah.
thank you again, and
Thank you for having
good luck getting through the rest of winter, okay?
me. Well, it's all melting outside, so I'm thankful for that.
Congrats, and don't brag. Congrats. All right, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye. Bye bye.